Everyone, to tonight's Hookup with Real Estate Masterclass. We're super excited that we have a special guest, Mike and Ligia Deaton, and we will introduce them in just a minute. But first, Ken, would you mind reading the disclaimer?
Yes. We appreciate you attending the Hookup with Real Estate Masterclass. We are not financial advisors. The content we provide is strictly for educational purposes and not intended as legal, financial, or investment advice, nor is it a solicitation for funds. Remember, participation in this program is at your own discretion. Real estate markets are subject to change and can be dynamic. Hook Up with Real Estate and its representatives are not liable for any outcomes resulting from the information provided or engagements with third-party providers. Seek professional advice before making any real estate or investment decisions. By attending, you consent to this event being recorded and understand that internet security is not absolute.
Mhm. To change the slide, but it's struggling today. If I can't get it, we'll just jump into the bio.
Is your PowerPoint on the cloud, or are you?
No, it's local. All right, we'll just jump into the bio. Forget it. There's always a way around this. All right. Well, in 2016, Mike and his wife, Ligia, escaped corporate world and plunged full-time into the real estate market together. They've since launched multiple real estate businesses across asset classes to combine tremendous cash flowing financial returns with incredible tax benefits. They are currently active land investors and have partnered in over 1,200 units of multifamily assets, learning many valuable and sometimes painful lessons along the way. Been there too. Today, they enjoy giving back by coaching others to find more freedom through real estate. As real estate entrepreneurs, they love enjoying ultimate lifestyle freedom while delivering on their mission in making significant impacts to both investors and communities. When they're not busy adding value and serving others, you can find them at home in the Colorado mountains, enjoying the great outdoors. Please help me welcome Mike and Ligia Deaton as they share their wisdom on flipping dirt, the simplest way to real estate freedom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to these slides. Stop
Thank you for
sharing.
having us.
Oh, you're very welcome. So the very first question that we always like to ask our guests is, how did you get started in real estate?
Yeah, it's a great question. I have a few slides to walk through, and I'll share if whenever it's appropriate for you. I touch on a little bit of that. I don't know if you want me to go ahead and do that now, or
Oh, sure. It's
get
in
into
there?
it in a
Or
minute.
you can just tell us while you're sharing. Sure.
Yeah. So Ligia and I both worked in corporate America for quite some time. Me longer than her, I would imagine. But yeah, I spent my early part of my career, a little more than 20 years, in big tech companies, mostly in operations and supply chain. Motorola, Nokia mobile phones, Microsoft at the tail end of my career. And that's actually Ligia and I met each other at Nokia mobile phones. I worked in Romania, where Ligia is born and raised for most of her life till I took her away and brought her here to the US. Yeah, we met. So I went on an expat assignment over there for 3 years, and we met right away. Sparks flew, fell in love, kind of did the whole thing there. And we came back in 2010, 2011 timeframe. Both worked W-2 jobs, and I will fast forward just a little bit here, but in 2015 timeframe, we revisited Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think we'd both read it many years back, and I think we found it in a box and just were like, "Oh, I'd love to reread this." And similar to almost everybody you talk to in real estate, Kiyosaki has some root in most people's journey, but it awakened this idea that we should not just rely on our W-2 incomes. We should try to start to transition to be business owners and or investors and generate other types of income. But we really didn't actively pursue anything. It just kind of awakened a spark. I'm a runner. I like to run a lot, and I listen to podcasts while I'm out running. And during that time frame, I started listening to like Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income, a few other passive income type focused podcasts, and I heard about land, and it sparked an interest. And it was interesting enough and compelling enough. I think I heard two different guests on different podcasts talking about the success they'd had buying and selling vacant land. They were doubling, tripling, even like 5x their investments and able to flip properties very quickly. And it was super interesting. And I started doing a little bit of research. I bought a toolkit, which back then was a binder or a set of binders with DVDs, sleeved in the back. And it came in the mail. And I think I looked at maybe the first one and just it sat on my desk for years until, in 2016, and here, it's just like I said, it sat on the shelf. And then in 2016, in the summer, I was part of a Microsoft downsizing. A lot of things happening like that today, but it was my turn. I think I'd been on the other side of the table for dozens of layoffs, like letting people go. And finally, my number came up, and within days, Ligia was working at a healthcare company, kind of a small healthcare company nearby our home, but their headquarters was in Arkansas. And so they had taken the decision to close this Dallas office. We were living in the Plano area at the time, and they were going to close that office and consolidate everything back in Fort Smith, Arkansas. And so we were both out of a job, and that was our only source of income, our both of our jobs. We had not developed side streams of income or rental properties or passively invested in assets like that. And so it was a kind of a time of anxiety, and we both scrambled to get new jobs, right? We refreshed our resumes. They have whatever, like at least with mine, came without placement type services and all the things that you're supposed to do, network, tap into recruiters. I started going on interviews with like Apple and Tesla and Amazon. And, these are all West Coast companies. Part of the reason why I was let go from Microsoft was because I made it expressly known that I didn't want to relocate to Washington, where they were headquartered. And that was kind of the only upward mobility that I had at the time. And I didn't really want to relocate to the West Coast. Amazon had opportunities around the nation, but they were not in really desirable locations for either of us. Um, and so, I'll really praise Lygia for this, but she at the moment just kind of said, "Hey, why don't we slow down, um, uh, listen in, and try to decide what we want to do." We had means, fortunately, like we had some savings. I got a severance, and so it wasn't imminent that we had to get jobs, thankfully, but still, there's that anxiety that you're dipping into savings every month. But we took the time to slow down, listen, and we did some exercises. What did we want out of our future? When we worked at Nokia together, we loved working together. We drove to work every day. We worked in the same office type environment. We weren't like in a tight office, but we were in the same building. We got to work out in the mornings, go to work, go home together. We loved it. And so, that was something that called to us. At my time in Microsoft in those days, I was traveling probably 25 to 50% of each month.
Mm.
Domestic trips, international trips. I had an international team, and our quality of life just wasn't, we had means and we were able to do things, but we were apart more than we wanted to be. We wanted to enjoy nature, do things, adventure travel, go on trips. We go every year to see Ligia's family for a month to 6 weeks. And we wanted to be able to do those things. And so for us, we thought, let's see if we can do something different than just getting a salaried job again. And land was there on the desk. And so we decided to dig into the materials. Part of the course came with like a weekend boot camp where you got a little deeper exposure into what land flipping was like. I think that was in the fall of 2016 that we went. It was not far. The event happened to be in San Antonio. It was not far from where we were living, like a 4-hour drive. And so, we went down, spent the weekend, met other people that were doing land flipping, other people that were interested in it. And so we got a taste of other people having success. And we were able to see that it was possible if we wanted to do it. And we decided, after we got back, we talked it over and we decided that we would give it a chance. And so we signed up for a coaching program. We allocated like 12 months. We said, okay, let's give ourselves 12 months and see if we can get this going. And we put some seed capital into a business. And in January of 2017, we started our land endeavor. We formed an LLC. We started coaching in that month. And yeah, that was our really entry point into real estate, and it was land. And I can get into more of the details later on, but that was at least our first step into real estate. And it happened to be, we're almost 10 years into this business. In January, we'll start our 10th year. It's still our favorite. We've done a lot of real estate things, multifamily, single family, fix and flips, different things. And so
Good job.
it's still our favorite.
That's not a year.
Just 1 second. I have to mute.
I got it. I got it.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. So just to bring this full circle. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad was not what started our interest in real estate, but also was what motivated us to take action.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really
Finally.
powerful. I mean, like I said, I probably 9 out of 10 people I talk to all have some purple book in their background that
Yeah, they call it the Purple
yeah.
Bible
Yeah,
in
it's
real
perfect.
estate. Yeah. Nice. Okay, so if you want to jump into your PowerPoint and
Sure, yeah, I can walk you through a little bit more. And so, like I mentioned, where we see a lot of people frustrated in real estate, especially on the active side of real estate, passive investing is a little bit different, but most people have effort and they have abilities. It's just that a lot of these are complex. Even on the passive, when you invest passively, you kind of teased in your bio of us, but there's so many variables to other forms of real estate. And so like, there's interest rates, there's debt, leverage, you deal with other people, whether it's your direct partners or whether it's people operating the deal. If you're doing any type of value add, you have contractors, there's property managers, asset managers, different variables that go into underwriting, rent growth, utilities, all of that stuff. I mean, I've done it. We've been in half a dozen
Yes.
deals or so, and as an active participant, and it's just I enjoy that aspect of it. But when you think about even if there's 25 variables in a deal, well, coming from like an engineering background, there's a stack up of everything. And so if you think of each piece in the chain has some kind of tolerance that it can vary up and down, well, even if you think everything right, there's just inevitability that things are going to drift out of the tolerance window to make something successful. And so, that margin for error is really difficult. I mean, our multifamily deals, I don't know that I've ever been as stressed, for sure
Yes.
not in our real estate career. But we were in a hard time where we entered a lot of deals right when the interest rates ran up. Prices went up. It was COVID. We were doing value add projects. Contractors couldn't travel. People were getting sick. Materials weren't arriving in time because the supply chains closed down. And so, a lot of the deals we had to really just fight and scratch to get them to tread water for a little bit. And so, for us, land just really removes all of that. Like
Mm.
the at least the way we do it, it's pure flipping. And so I'll get into it here in the next few slides, but it's really just comes down to being able to do market comp analysis, buying underneath that. You can get in very cheaply if you want to. You can also buy expensive plots of land, but all of those things made land a lot more predictable for us, and it's just been that way for many years. The model itself is like I described it. We only buy under market value and we just turn around and sell it at market value. And so there's an instant baked in profit. And typically what we do is we'll identify a market. We look for markets with a lot of land, like, hundreds or more than 1,000 individual parcels of vacant land available. And there's different ways to find those areas. Once we've identified a market, then we get the list of property owners and those names, and there's different services. The county directly, a lot of times you can get the names of property owners, but there's PropStream and Data Tree, and there's some land specific ones. And so there's ways to get and identify the property owners. Um, there are nuances within even that, like you can do tax stressed people if people owe taxes. We started out that way and we shifted very quickly into just mailing everybody, and we direct mail a lot of people. There's other ways to do that. You can, text campaigns, email campaigns, cold calling. But essentially, we reach out to 1,000 or thousands of landowners and we get a 1 to 2 or 3% response rate. And that math is enough, especially if if you're doing deals that are hundreds of dollars, then your overhead costs can kind of eat into it. But if you're doing just marginally more deals, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 per deal type properties, you can easily absorb the direct mailing costs. Those, out of 1,000 deals, you think even at a 1% success rate, okay, well, that's 10 deals in your lap. They don't all materialize, but if half of them do, you've got 5 deals out of that campaign. That campaign cost maybe $600, $650. And so, the profit margins easily accommodate that. And it really just becomes a numbers game and a question of scale. And so it's just very simple. We're not doing anything. We're not entitling land. We're not developing it, or anything like that. That can be done. We've just chosen not to do it. We just resell it. And so, all of that is what gives us, in our opinion, the advantage in land relative to short-term rentals or fix and flips or multifamilies. But a few of the things here, like as I mentioned, we have bought land for $100 or $200. We've gotten land given to us for free from people. They're just tired of dealing with the taxes. Another guy gave us a parcel just as we bought 9 properties from him, and he said, "Hey, I have another one over here. It's in an HOA. I'll just put that in the deal." And so, you can get in very affordably, and that's part of what attracted us initially was that we didn't have to put in 50,000 or 75,000 as a down payment or as an investment. We could test the model and get our feet wet and do things there. And we still will cast the net for a range of different prices to see what works. But you can also play, like I said, 6 figures, 7-figure land. the dynamics change a little bit as you get up in value, right? I mean, if you think about $100,000 piece of property, it's less likely someone's going to sell it at a deep, deep discount, but you can still get a discount. Even if you get it for 20% less than market value, you're netting 20,000 on the flip. There's different ways to go about doing it. Some people like to do infill lots where you have if you think about a Florida subdivision or something where there's just, a bunch of vacant land that's being developed. We tend to traffic more in rural and recreational land areas, 5, 10, 50 acres, things like that. We just have gravitated there and we like that. There's commercial land that you can do. It's a little less available than if you think about, there's areas here in Colorado. We've done business in Texas. It's really all across the nation, with a few exceptions. But there are areas where there are just, dozens, if not hundreds of parcels of land, and you can get in and do some things there. Commercial properties is just not quite kind of that way. It's more of a micro targeting. It's a little harder there, but there's different ways to focus.
Are people buying in rural areas?
What are people buying? Which type?
Like when you buy land for cheap, or are there people that are actually that you have to sell that land to, or are you holding on to it for a while?
No, and so that's kind of the third point that I'll talk about here. You can flip
Okay.
things quickly. Actually, most of our deals flip fairly quickly. Like we're talking about a 90 to 100-day cycle. Sometimes we sell properties in a week or 2 weeks. Sometimes we hold for 12 months, I think is probably the longest we've really held something. And that's not because we wanted to, it's just took a while to sell. You're a little bit of sore throat, so you'll have to bear with me. But it's a fairly quick flip. I guess over our 9 years, there's been a little bit of seasonality, but we've never gone through a long patch of just land not moving. We were really nervous when COVID hit. We were preparing, that bullet there where I talk about faster patient exits. Like you can sell a property for cash. Like if we have a $50,000 property, you can list it with a realtor. We do a lot of sales ourselves on Facebook Marketplace, Zillow directly.
Okay.
Some people come with cash in hand and they'll buy a property, and we usually discount land if they want to buy with cash. But probably 80 to 90% of how we sell is we'll owner finance that same property for 50,000. We'll owner finance it for somebody
Okay.
at like a 10 or 15% interest rate. We'll carry the note. And so we'll have 5 to 7 years of monthly payments coming in. And so since we started, we just stacked up those monthly payments, much like rent checks. And so we have a base of passive income or mailbox money that comes in each month. It's finite because after that 5 years or 7 years or however long the term is, it's going to drop off, but it's easy to replace over that time period if you think about and continue to grow it. And then we do that 20%-ish of cash deals that bring bigger chunks of revenue back into our business that we can then use for reinvestment. And so there's a mix there, but being able to sell things owner financed really opens up our buying pool a lot because not everybody can come with $50,000 and buy a piece of property. But if you think about a $500 or $600 a month payment, well, that opens up a lot more of the buying pool.
We have a
May I add
question from Simon.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I wanted to add, Donna, you were asking if people are buying those lots, those properties, and that was my reluctancy in the beginning when we started this business. Like, who's gonna buy dirt? Who's gonna buy just vacant land? But we've been so surprised, and we still get surprised over and over. There's so many people in this country that have the dream to own land, and they want to retire one day. They want to build a cabin. They want to give it to their children. They want to leave it to their grandchildren. I mean, there's so many reasons why people buy. Even hunters, they just want to have a piece of property, go in the middle of nowhere, hunt, shoot, do whatever. And it's been opening our eyes to see that yes, there are people that are going to buy those properties that I would never touch. Or like in the beginning, I thought I would never buy this. So I was really, really reluctant.
Yeah, and in fact, looking back, that's probably the only regret that we have is we were very picky in the beginning. Like those first year or two, we looked at properties and we'd be like, wow, nobody's going to buy this. Even we get a great deal on it, we're not going to buy it. And so we passed over a lot of properties, but we learned over the years that every property sells. And there's a saying that kind of in our niche in land is there's a pig for every barn, right? There's a buyer out there, like somebody wants a swamp. They want to run their ATVs through it or raise alligators. I don't know what, but somebody wants that. You just have to find them. But broadly, like, where we shop in Colorado, there's a lot of people looking for Colorado land, right? 5 acres, 10 acres, put an RV on it, maybe build eventually. Even in West Texas, we've done a lot of business in West Texas and Arizona, New Mexico. It's a lot drier and but people love it. Like they want to go, they want to be remote. There's different buying profiles across those different classifications. And so long answer to your question, but yes, a lot of people like to buy any type of land you can imagine.
Yes.
You mentioned a
Cool.
couple questions. You want to take those now?
Yep, sure, if you don't mind. So Simon is asking, he's talking about owner financing. Are you doing them as fully amortizing? I can't say the word.
Amortized.
Amortizing.
Advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amortize.
thank you, Simon. It's just not coming out today. Owner financing or balloons?
We haven't really done any balloon payments. We've had people pay off early. But normally we'll get a deposit up front and that's negotiable, but typically it's somewhere between $500 and $1,000. And then we'll typically come in with a recommendation. And the way we do it is we'll advertise the owner financed price. So let's just take that $50,000 parcel. Let's say we say, hey, $900 a month for 6 years. I don't know the math off the top of my head, but something like that. And let's say that adds up to $75,000 or $80,000 over that 5 or 6 year time period. Well, then we'll usually say, or we'll take $50,000 cash as a discount. And then we advertise it as a 0%, like no interest loan, but a discounted cash price. And so in effect, there's kind of an interest rate there, or there's a premium for the owner financing. But that's kind of how we do it. And then technically we do what's called a contract for deed. And so we hold the deed. We don't transfer ownership until somebody's fully paid off their property.
Absolutely.
And so we don't have to do any, any type of paperwork or legal. All we do is we'll send if somebody doesn't pay, and we usually give them 2 or 3 months, we'll send a notice, hey, you're behind on your payment. We'll give you 30 days to catch it up. We typically work with almost anybody. Like if they just get back to us and say, hey, we've paused loans for 2 or 3 months and redone the loan terms to try and get them whole. But ever so often there's somebody who just doesn't respond. And those are the ones where we usually just send them a cancellation notice and say, hey, you violated, the contract. We're canceling it. And then we'll just resell the property. It's great for us. It's kind of bad for somebody else, but it avoids, any type of evictions, although there's really not anybody on there, but there's no foreclosure that has to happen or anything like that, because, those kind of things can really turn the business case upside down if you have to.
Actually, you have to check so in certain jurisdictions on contract for deed, once they have paid down a certain amount of the principal, you have to foreclose.
Yeah, each state is a little bit different,
Yeah,
and so yeah, you definitely have to kind of understand the landscape before you get in there. Like Texas is has some different rules, and there yes, to your point, there are some states
yeah,
where there are some specific
yeah,
legalities there. Yeah, it's a good
yeah.
point.
But typically it has to do with how much they had paid down at the time of default.
Right.
Okay. And your other question here, Simon, do
Um,
you
no,
go
that
ahead?
was the other one. Do you ever buy on owner finance straight from the sellers and do a wrap?
Yeah, we haven't done that. It's a very elegant strategy if you can get the owner to agree to those terms. We've always self-funded our deals, and we've had the seed capital up front, and we've always kept a good operating level. And so it's a lot easier for us just to buy, and the sellers are a lot more motivated if they're getting cash, especially if they're taking a
Yeah,
lowball
and
offer.
and
Um,
you're subscribed to the theory of every lot sells, so you don't really care if it's buildable or not, so long as there's enough dirt.
Correct. Yeah, yeah.
Now, what about dirt that's in a gated community? We own a piece of land that has depreciated significantly because of its location and the
Uh-huh.
owners. So, do you buy land in those types of places as well?
We're a little more cautious if there's an HOA where we have done it. We try not to go too heavy in it. Like we buy one or two at a time. And sometimes they're really like there's some areas here in Colorado where there's a gated community. It's an HOA. It just adds a couple layers of complexity. So first of all, there's just an extra expense in the HOA, which if you sell it quickly, we pass that on. So we've had a few properties where people wanted to owner finance, and we just put the HOA fee in on top of the payment. But um, it complicates being, some people like to go see the property,
Mhm.
and if it's not close to us, or even if it is, it's a hassle. And so anytime we've had something like that, we've usually engaged a local realtor, and we've just agreed with them on on a commission structure. And then they are able to greet people, show them the property, and do things like that. But we do, that's kind of a yellow flag for us. We'll typically do a little extra homework on any property in an HOA. In a gated community, okay, the cost factor, if it's not an HOA, the cost factor is there, but it can be, there's that extra friction in getting people to go see the property.
Yeah, that makes sense. We also had one piece of, well, two. One we built a house on in Florida before 2008, and the other one was very interesting because the county kept trying to tell us it was wetlands, and then they kept trying to tell us that we had to mitigate the land, and we ended up hiring a lawyer, and he's a relative, and finally it wasn't wetlands anymore,
Yeah, because I questioned it. I said, shouldn't you have disclosed to us when you sold it to us that it was wetlands? And because they didn't. So
Yeah.
they wound up changing it. Now it's not wetlands anymore.
Very
Sounds
good.
like fraud to me if I ever heard it.
Uh-oh.
Have to be careful on the small lots. I'm selling a lot right now that I foreclosed on, and I'm having to deal with the riparian rights, and it's very peculiar on the sewer. So
This is in Florida?
no, this is in Georgia, and then
No.
density got cut, and I was fighting the county. It was gonna take me forever, and I'm selling it to somebody that has a lot of friends at the county, and I'm taking a loss on that lot. So you know what? I want out. But it was I had a blanket loan on two lots, and I already sold the other one, so I'm gonna end up breaking even on that deal.
Okay. Yeah, that can be tricky. I'm familiar with it in Florida. I haven't really done any business in Georgia, but yeah, there can be certain,
Yeah,
definitely can be tricky if you
yeah.
get birds or certain things.
Yeah, I was gonna entitle it to two properties on the lot, and they told me I can only build one two-bedroom.
Interesting.
Because there is a stream that doesn't exist. It only there when it rains hard, and there was a setback, and they only, and then because of the way the lot sits, you cannot tie directly to the sewer. Actually, you can, but it's cost prohibitive just for that single lot. So it
Yeah.
has to be a septic setback. So once you take the setback from riparian and then septic away, then you could only build like,
Small footprint.
yeah, exactly. And
Hey,
I
I had a
said,
question with that.
what's
I,
that?
I had a question with that. When you spoke with zoning, was there
Uh-huh.
any notes? Was there any notes to that lot in reference to anything like that? How'd you find out about that?
I had to call and, the kind of submit a plan, right? And then the environmental department goes first, and then there's multiple departments involved. But the way they calculated the buildable, uh, they did not take into account of the extra land behind the stream. So what happens is I can technically run a PVC through the stream underneath and then have the septic field on the other side and increase the buildable footprint. But it was timing issue. I'm not going to go through the brain damage and fight them 8 months just to get that done. My time in order to make like 20, 30 extra grand, my time is better get heck out.
Gotcha. Is there any way to find out about this prior to going through that meeting and that process? Is there anything to
Yes, you
find
can
out?
call the county and go through all of that. In my case, I was the lender. I lent on both lots, and it seemed like like it was in a prime location. I'm like, I didn't even check it. It's like, how can I lose? It just happens that I got the lot in one street, that entire downtown Duluth area, that didn't have sewer because the funky reason. So it caused me issues, but I made money on the other lot. So I'm like, you know what? It doesn't, I wasn't buying it. I'm just a lender on it. So,
Okay.
but you can certainly do research if you're a buyer and talk to the county and, all of that. If you're more serious, then you need to submit your plan to really figure out what they're going to allow. Unfortunately, so there's no way to really figure out definitively what they exactly allow until you submit a plan, which will cost you not a ton of money.
And I think that's why Mike and Ligia basically don't want to build on their lots. They just want to.
Yeah, we
There
do a
is,
lot of rural and rural recreational. There are still things that you need to be aware of, but sometimes counties, as just a couple of examples here, I mean, sometimes counties aren't that great at documenting or putting things in there, right? So we bought an infill lot not too far away from us here in Colorado in a smaller town that, on paper was an amazing deal. It was, we were getting a steal on it. It was market value was like 6x what we were going to buy it for. And we did our due diligence, but only after did we find out there was a special easement similar to what you're describing here, where
yeah,
it was more of a water runoff. We did a little bit of legwork and we were able to kind of get some workarounds and find the right people. There was also a local buyer who'd had his eye on this property for a long time. And as soon as we told him how he could resolve the issue, we were able to sell. But it wasn't part of the normal due diligence process that this, easement was recorded. It was only, like you said, once you explored other, planning and zoning, that they were like, oh, we have a water. It was kind of a drainage easement as well across this property.
yeah. Funny enough, one time I bought a foreclosure and turned out the lot was landlocked. The house that was sitting on, it just had an easement granted through somebody else's lot.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
But
we have bought some in our earlier years, and now we do a lot more work. We just don't like to buy landlocked, even if they have an easement.
yeah,
It's harder to sell because people don't. They're like, oh, how do I use my easement? But that's one of our few red flags whenever we do
yeah,
kind of a first pass is if it looks landlocked, or if we can't see access, then we just pass on it.
yeah.
These are
Unless
some valuable lessons learned for sure.
if you get it for
We're
next
getting
to
in the
nothing,
weeds here. Yeah.
you can always sell it to a neighbor who wants to own that.
We recently did a deal just like that. We got we had a property owner that approached us about selling their property, and when we looked at it, it was landlocked. And Lygia went ahead and looked just an extra layer deeper, and she saw that the same person owned most of the properties around surrounding this parcel. And so, we got their contact information and reached out, and they were willing to buy it. And so, yeah, we just kind of did a double close that way. We bought from the owner and just sold into the surrounding property owner. So yeah, I mean, there are ways to work the system
Yeah.
and do it.
But if we don't have an agreement up front, I'm not buying the lot.
Right.
The
Yeah.
land.
Do you guys use Landglide a lot?
We haven't. We haven't used Landglide yet.
Okay.
What is that, Simon?
It's a system you can find out, like, who owns a lot, a parcel, like, easier than any other system. It's super easy to use.
Got you.
It won't give you their information. Actually, I think they have a tie with some other skip tracing company. You can get it, but if you're out in the field, the app, you can just like look at it right on your phone. It tells you who owns it and all of that, and without having to go through the big search engine, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we've heard about it, or at least I think you mentioned it to me not too long ago, but we typically use Parlay, which is who's the parent company?
Google Earth Pro.
Well, that's the overlay, but somebody owns Parlay, like Data Tree or something. But
Yeah.
there's several tools out there that kind of plug into the counties and extract the ownership
Yeah.
information that you can go and find things. But Landglide is a nice mobile app.
Very
All right.
interesting.
Well, I'll keep going here. I mean, I touched on this earlier, but typically, like I said, we're buying below market value, and so it can vary anywhere from 30 to 50% typically, unless you're kind of going up in the higher end. And then it's up to you and what kind of margin you want to pull. But we're usually somewhere plus or minus 40%. We usually test a few price points if we go into a larger market. We'll kind of go in low, maybe scrape off some of the early people that are willing to sell. But that's kind of the simplicity of this is just being able to worry about a couple of variables and do that. I mentioned earlier there's flexible exit strategies. We typically do cash or owner financing, but there's other ways. I mean, you can similar to homes, there's different ways to arbitrage. You can do wholesaling. Give me just 1 second.
Let's see.
But the nice thing about it is, you can either predetermine or allow for some flexible exits, especially if you have a good margin in there. Then, when we were in our early years, we had a very rigid time, like we had some time bands that we would say, okay, for the first 4 weeks, we're going to put it on the open market at a certain price. And then if it didn't sell, we would kind of go through just to make sure our inventory is turning. We're a little less rigid these days. We'll hold for top price if we want to, or if we need some cash, then we'll flip some things in. But there's a lot of different ways within, just similar to house flipping or whatever. There's different ways to be able to monetize a piece of property. Also, for like owner financing, you can sell all or portion of your promissory notes, right? So if you have $40,000 left to be paid on a note, there are buyers out there that will buy all or portion of that to keep your liquidity going in. But that gets a little more nuanced and advanced.
Yeah.
We kind of have a framework that we use. We have our coaching business is flipping dirt. And so we have a framework that we branded D.I.R.T, and it's, really just when we work with new clients, we work up front to define what is their buy box. So what's their strategy? Do they need cash today? Are they okay with terms and owner financing prices? How much capital do they have to work with? Are they doing this as a side hustle or full time? All of that kind of goes into a strategy, and that helps us identify a market. and go after certain types of properties. And that's, the second phase of that. Then we identify those owners, we reach out, and then it's about transacting, right? Buying the property and then marketing, selling, and flipping the property. So it keeps things structured, pretty easy to walk through. Just to give you an idea of some of the results we're talking about. These are more modest type buys, but we recently bought 40 acres in Arizona for 12K. We were able to turn around and flip it. That one went within a couple of weeks, and it went quickly. Then, another one, we bought a little smaller property for 6.5, and we were able to sell it for 20K or so. And these are pretty typical deals. You can go bigger. We have clients that start with us that only want to buy $1,000 or $1,500 properties. Those are available. Like, you can find markets where those are able to be done. Takes a little bit longer. Your margins on a percentage basis can be very healthy, but obviously we're talking about $1,000, and so you can't necessarily engage title companies or realtors or things like that, because it just really eats into the margins. And so, but it is possible.
I got a question. Where do you find lands that only sell for $1,500? I'm curious of
New
that.
Mexico, Arizona,
Wow.
there are pockets of even California, Nevada,
Uh-huh.
Utah. There's places that are they're remote-ish a little bit, but they're out there. And so
Hmm.
because of the formula, that property is selling on the market for maybe $5,000 or $4,000, and so you're making an offer of a third of its value. Also, properties that are market valued of $4,000 or $5,000, people are a lot more likely to take $1,500 for it or something, especially if they've inherited it, they're paying taxes, they're kind of ready to get out. But yeah,
Wow.
those pockets of properties are out there.
Yes.
Yeah, so in January we'll start our 10th year. This is our full-time business. It's still simple. It's still aligned with our values. We live, here in the mountains of Colorado. We're remote work. We travel. It's a really flexible lifestyle. We work together. We're able to collaborate on the business, and it's just been a great way of life for us for all this time. Like I mentioned, it still really resonates with our values and purpose in life. We like to have time freedom, location freedom. We give back through coaching. It's great to watch other people be transformed and have the success and get some extra income into their pockets. And it's been really great. And I think this is just a kind of a final. If you want to learn more, it sounds like, Simon, you're already in it. But if you want to learn more, we have a location here with some resources that you can download. There's a couple of guides we have. I have a book, Flipping Dirt, that goes a little deeper into the process and our story along the way. And then there's a button there if you want to schedule a call. Love to talk land. Happy to chit chat or whatever, so people can reach out at that same site and book a call. And yeah, it's been great. It's a wonderful complement to most other real estate. Like, we deal with a lot of people who are doing something else. They're into multifamily syndications or they're flipping homes. This is a way to generate cash a little more regularly than a multifamily syndication cycle or things like that. And so I didn't touch on this in the presentation, but one of the downsides of land is it's not depreciable. And so it's taxed typically at capital gains rate levels. And so we pair our land business with investments like that so that we get, the tax advantaged investments or businesses and pair that with our gains in land. And so I think, I don't know, probably for 6 years, we really haven't paid any taxes of note. I think we pay the minimum levels that you have to pay sometimes, and we live in Colorado, so there's some state taxes involved. But essentially, we're really not paying much in the way of taxes, just because we invest in multifamily syndications or storage or other things like that that we can. We're real estate professionals status, so we can take, full depreciation against our income. And so it's just been a great complement to do things like that. But if it weren't for the tax advantage, I probably wouldn't be doing those other forms of investment because they're higher risk and things like that. So that's kind of what we had in terms of a presentation. Happy to field any other questions, have discussions, or things like that.
Okay, sure. So I'm going to ask on behalf of John Burley, who's on mute there, but he runs a crowd-funded land grab, if you will, called Core Tax Deeds out of Texas. And John, if you're out there, so you're not doing tax deeds necessarily, right?
Yeah, we haven't. In the early, like when we started in 2017 or so, tax deed auctions, they were a little more approachable. Now most counties are very digital and they become super competitive. They can still be super advantageous. Just takes a little bit of work. You also have to know the laws of your state and possibly even your county, because like for instance here in Colorado, if the state takes a property over and sells it through a tax auction, the previous owner has up to 7 years to be able to come back and make
Oh,
good
wow.
on their tax delinquent bill.
Hmm.
And so technically you're not supposed to resell that property for a long time. And so it's just that's not part of our business model, so we don't do it. But each state has a little bit of different nuance there. And so it's just something you have to go local on and understand what's going on. But it can be a great way. I mean, we have a client who has done some in Florida and he got some great deals on his property, but he has a few hoops that he has to jump through to resell those properties in a certain amount of time. But they can be great ways.
Yeah. John, are you there?
Yeah, hey, Donna, thanks, and thanks, Mike. Great information. Yeah, it's certainly not only just states specific, but every county in Texas where we operate can be a little different. So it's all in the due diligence.
Yes.
It is, yeah. I know when we first started, it took us probably 6 or 7 counties to testing out to find one that we really had success in. And back in those days, at least, there were some West Texas counties where, they didn't do anything digitally. So you had to show up at the courthouse or use the post office to, send your deeds and get things recorded. And it was just really kind of prohibitive to doing business. I think most of them are a little more advanced these days, and they do e-filing and things like that. But yeah,
Actually,
each county can definitely have their own flavor, and dealing with the resources in these counties can also be an adventure from market to market.
Yes.
Yeah, even today, there's still only about 20% of the counties in Texas that have gone to online.
Oh, wow.
So vast majority, 254 counties, there's 80% of them still first Tuesday of the month at 10 a.m. Kind of hard to be in more than one county.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit more about like your defined step, the DIRT format? So, if somebody's thinking about investing in land, what would be a minimum recommendation for how much they should start with? And, how does that help you define the market, et cetera?
Yeah, you can get started really inexpensively. It is challenging. And so we've had clients with really no money, and there is kind of in the industry, they call it land arbitrage, or basically, excuse me, you're selling on commission. And so there are people that, like for us, for instance, we don't do it, but let's just take us an example. Like if we have a dozen properties available, and maybe let's say they're 10 to 20,000 in value. Well, there are people that work a little bit differently. There's different ways to do it, but you can essentially it's a little bit like a realtor, but there's a way you can go out
Oh,
and
you're
if you
talking about
find
novation, basically. What
novation is a spin on it, right?
yeah, yeah.
But there's also other variations like
Essentially it ends up being an equity share arrangement. It's novation is a made up word. But
right.
it's a equity share arrangement with a seller in the end is what it amounts to.
Right, and there's different ways to do it.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
percentage shares, commissions, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, all that just to say there is a way to use sweat equity to kind of get into the game. It's not easy. It's hard, just like in the homes. I mean, it's super challenging. But I would say, you're going to need $1,000 to get some campaigns out there, and then you're going to have to buy and transact a property. And so $10,000 is probably a comfortable minimum that you would want to be able to do this. And then, even then, it's better if you're like if you have a W-2 or a job and you're able to have some discretionary income to come in each month or each quarter, the business is going to flow a lot more easily. But that's where we kind of personalize an approach with people. And if you don't have that 10,000 or close to it, unless you're going to really go out and hustle and use a lot of sweat equity to get things going, it's probably not advisable to really get in. I mean, like I said, $1,000 is kind of a minimum, or maybe $750 is a minimum to get a campaign out. Um, Even then, you may not get results in that first campaign, and so it might take a follow-up campaign to get things going. And then, there are some systems that you have to pay transaction fees to close a property. There's just some little costs that add up. But if you have 15 or 20 plus thousand to get started, that's a great seed capital really to get things going. When we started, I think we put $100,000 into our business to get things going, and we didn't use all that in that first year, but we've not had to really take on any leverage or debt or anything. We've always self-funded and just grown year after year in our business in that way. But yeah, there's a way to play at various price points.
To help you promote your thing is a launchpad thing, your coaching business, on your site, or is that different than what you're referring to?
Yeah, so we have three tiers. The
Okay.
Launchpad is more of a self-paced
Yeah.
video and all the templates and documents. It's kind of a standalone. We don't coach in
Yeah.
that regard. And then we have a group coaching program where it's a little more affordable price point, and then we work one-on-one with people as well at a higher price point.
It's a nice option to have for people.
Yeah, it is. It is.
They
And
can.
it's the space is great. There's usually an ROI on any of those. I mean, really, you can have success. It just takes work, like anything else. The people that are successful in this are the action takers. Because there are obstacles. You meet, maybe you don't get responses back, or we're dealing with a client who he put his first campaign out. He's got like 5 accepted offers. Well, he lost his first one because he just wasn't quite ready, and somebody sold it out, bought it out from under him, and but he has others in his purview. But the people that don't have success most often are the ones that are playing really small and have a scarcity, type mindset. Maybe they come in with just a little bit of money. It's we feel it when we have been across these last 9 years. Anytime our inventory gets down to, I don't know, less than 5 properties, we just feel things slow down. It seems like when we have, a decent or more inventory, sales are happening faster. And I don't know if it's just because we have options that people can take, or it's a mood or something, but it's really hard to play. It's not impossible, but we have clients that just want to buy one property and then wait till that sells and then reinvest those property. It takes longer to step through that, because you're waiting on somebody to buy a property or not. versus if you're able to kind of keep the pipeline going, instead, anytime it stops start, it just gets a little bit harder.
So it's like a little,
I have a good
like
question.
driving a stick. One sec, Simon.
No,
Yeah,
I just
but I
wanted
like
to.
it. I like the boat analogy. It's like, anytime you're starting out on a boat, there's just all this resistance and you're kind of going. But once you get up and plane on the water, then things flow a lot more smoothly. And but yeah, similar concept.
Have you noticed difference in response rates and motivation level people like now versus like 2021,
For
2022?
sure. Yeah, for sure. When we started in 2017, um, but it's market and submarket
Yeah,
dependent, right? I mean, there's
sure.
definitely differences market to market, but for sure, we spend more on our offers and campaigns per accepted offer than we did in the early days.
Okay, so your cost per lead and cost per deal went up. Is it because of like more competition or just less people responding to it?
It's market to market. It's most likely competition. Like we work in some Colorado counties here, and
Okay.
we talk to people and they say, "Hey, I have four other offers. Can you beat this offer?" And so
Okay.
the dynamics shift a little bit, but other markets are just tough. Like Texas seems to be. I mean, we've done a few Texas market, which is kind of weird because if you think about a county anywhere, I don't know what the percentages are, but many of the people don't even live in state, and so it's not like if you're mailing to Texas, you're dealing with Texas owners. You are in some cases, but it feels like there's some pride in the land in terms of Texas and Colorado and a few
Uh,
places like that, but where you can feel the response rate tightens up a little bit.
do you switch up between letters and postcards?
We've always just done letters. We just keep it simple. We started with letters. We make an offer, so we tell people, "Hey, we'll give you 5,000 for your land or 12,000 or whatever." It's just always worked well for us. We have done a few different models. We test now and again. We did a text campaign, AI-based texting campaign, I guess at the beginning of this year. We've done cold calling campaigns. They generate great lead flow, but they're just not really qualified leads. I mean, we spend more time vetting leads and negotiating and trying to chase people down that responded, and we just kind of stay with letters. The dynamic is shifting. I mean, the AI wave is here. All of this automation is coming in, and so things get more and more sophisticated. And so that's why we keep testing out a few of these services. And so, but the cost per acquisition is still, the best for us with just letters. We've never really done postcards, I don't think.
And it's also a personal preference. Like I don't want to be called. I do not want to be texted. And it's personal preference. I rather send a letter to people. They read it. And if they want to get back to me, they do. So
Did you have something against the postcard versus letter? Do you feel that more private, not airing it out is better?
Yeah, I think for us, just the real estate of a letter allowed us to be a little more personal. And
yes.
so, we have a little couple sentences at the beginning. We talk about us. We have a photo usually on our at the top of our excuse me. We have a little photo of us, and we've had people respond and say, "Oh, we felt good responding to you guys."
Yeah,
It feels more personal. It feels
yeah.
more
Like
warm and personal than a
my
postcard.
when I used to do mailings, I always put like a little bit of the shameless promotion, but I
Mhm.
used to put this U.S. Navy mark, and then I put veteran-owned
Oh,
company, and then I would have people call just because I
Yeah,
said veteran-owned company.
yeah, yeah, nice.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
every little bit
Yes,
helps sometimes. You
Yeah,
got to differentiate.
yes.
that's right. So let's say that I have my $11,000 to get started. Like, how do I even consider a market? Like, there's, 50 states. Where do I start? How is that?
Yeah, this is one of the hardest really elements of the business. We struggle with it today. We have some tried and true markets that we stay in. Excuse me. And then each quarter we try to test out a market or two. But it's really challenging because you don't know. There's not like there's not too many signals that indicate the health of a market. But in your scenario, let's say you had $11,000. We typically say, okay, let's take 1,000 out for operations cost. Now you're left with 10. You don't want to put all of that in one property, or we don't recommend it. And so we're looking at 2 or 3 properties. And so let's just say 3 properties, you're looking at purchase price of around $3,000. And so your market price is going to be somewhere between five and maybe $10,000. Like you're going to be looking for properties that are valued at that level because you're going to make an offer below that in some range. That usually starts us out where we say, okay, now we know we want to go look for markets where there's a decent amount of deal flow at this price point. And, an easy way to do it is just LandWatch is a really friendly website where you can see how many active listings there are by state, by county, by city. And so that's an easy one for us sometimes to go. You can filter it by acreage. But what we typically will do is go look at, and you can even do it nationwide. But if you, let's say in that example, we just put in 10,000 as a cap. Like we want to look at properties under 10,000 that are trading, and it'll come back and it'll say, whatever, Lee County, Florida is a top market, or some other counties, and you'll be able to see a handful of markets where there may be hundreds of listings, and then you'll see a drop off, like there's 20 listings or 10 listings. And so those are going to be really hard markets just because there's just not a lot of supply and demand dynamics. And so you really want to be in these larger markets. Then you can start to look at things like, who are the people in those markets? Like, here in Colorado, there's a county, Costilla County. We worked there for years. Well, now there's a bunch of land flippers. The dynamics are kind of upside down. People make crazy offers. There's just a lot of competition. And so we know just inherently, okay, we don't really want to go there. And so I know a lot of the people in the business. And so we can look and see who are the listings from. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually a sign of health. And so we won't not go to a market. But at the same time, you don't want too much competition. And so that's where we kind of go and we'll apply our historical knowledge about things. There's also things like we've been talking about. How friendly is a county to do business in, right? You might find 5 counties, and then you can do another layer. You can go to the assessor website. You can go to Simply File is a service that you can do e-recording. Well, they have a list of all the counties that are connected with them. And so you can look and see, are they there or not? And then you go and look in a particular market. What's the land like? Do you like it? I mean, that doesn't have to be a non-starter, but it is for us. Like we like more properties with vegetation of some kind than West Texas dirt or something. It's just personal preference. But we still do business, like we buy properties in Arizona and New Mexico, even in Texas. It's not like I said, there's a buyer for everything. We just personally typically sell better if we're passionate about the land or, it's something there. And so there's a few steps that we go to help hone somebody in, but it really is about that price point. Like, where are you comfortable? If you had $50,000 to work with, then we might be saying, okay, now we're looking at meatier properties. We're looking at $15,000 to $20,000 purchase price, which is going to mean $50,000 acquisition or market listing, and that opens up some different spots.
Since you're looking at mostly rural areas, I was going to ask if you ran into nuances of, comping on north side of a particular county versus south side.
For sure.
But if it's rural, I would imagine it's fairly similar.
It is, but there is still that dynamic. Like there's a county here right next to us where we live, and it's a long county. And there are definitely differences in market valuations in the properties that are closer to town, and it's even just a small little town.
You're next to it, but what if you're going into brand new market? How do you address the
Well,
comping
yeah,
challenges?
it's not because we're next to it that we know. We
Yeah.
typically will tap into local realtors. Like we'll
Okay.
we'll make some calls and they will give us a lot of insight
Got it.
into, hey, this area over here, properties don't sell or they sell for a lot less. This area is really hot right now. And so we'll try to tap into local knowledge where we can and get those insights once, you know, sometimes we do it after we've already sent like a mailing campaign, but it's good to get it before so that you know, hey, I'm going to offer a little bit less up here, maybe more down here. But at the same time, we don't usually when we're first going into a county, we don't overthink too much. We'll just blanket some offers, and then you develop nuance over time as you go. If you want to take the time up front, it certainly helps dial things in. It just, it takes a little bit longer on the upfront part than it does on the back end.
But you never look at like a single lot. You typically look at acreages of between here and here.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why is that?
Well, it's just, I mean, we're sending out 1,000 offers, and so we're dealing more with averages across the comps. And yeah, once you start getting into like lot level details, I know people who, like, for instance, in Florida, I know a guy who has a business and he reverse engineers his buyers. So he goes and talks to developers and gets an understanding of where they're building,
Hmm.
and then he'll go target those areas. And he knows the builder is open to pay up to a certain amount. And so he can reverse engineer. He knows, okay, I can pay up to a certain amount and still make a profit. It's just a different way to go about doing it. It's a little bit slower because you're dealing, with maybe a dozen or two or several dozen type properties versus we like to go to an area where there's 1,000 or thousands of properties and we can just mass send out and we might get some wrong. Usually it's just a conversation starter. If you're within the ballpark, a lot of people will get back and say, hey, got your offer. I can't do 5,000, but I'll do 7,000. And, it starts a conversation. And so then you can get into negotiation with people. And then typically it's once we get responses back, we'll go and do that next level at the lot level. So we'll go back and say, okay, this lot is specifically here. What are the nearby comps that we can get? Do we tap into a realtor? They'll give us a market analysis for that specific property, and there's ways to get more fine-tuned. And so we know, are we making a good offer, or did we miss the mark here in some way? And so, we'll usually sign a purchase agreement with somebody, and there's some outs, like it's contingent on us doing our due diligence and things like that. And so, in that second step, that's when we'll really dial things in at that precise level.
Okay, so your letter has an offer, but then the next step is really once you sign the purchase.
Yeah, we make an
agreement.
offer. We say it's contingent on due diligence. I think we put like a 30-day. If you respond later than 30 days, we reserve the right to kind of reevaluate the comps. There's a few outs. It's nothing binding at that level.
Yeah. Now, did you say you go and look at every property?
Physically?
Yeah.
No, none of them. We
Okay.
when we first started, we kind of thought maybe we needed to do that, and we did in many cases. But yeah, these days we don't. We just use like Google Earth and maps, and the counties all have their own GIS systems.
Okay.
And sometimes realtors will go out, or you can hire people to go take photos or drone videos pretty reasonably.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we don't put boots on properties too much anymore. Sometimes if we want an outing, we'll go. If we have properties nearby, we'll go spend a day. I have a drone. I like to take videos, but I haven't done it in years, I guess. I don't think we've gotten out really.
So how do you find these properties?
The ones that we purchase.
Correct.
Well, a little bit like we were talking about with Donna, we do a market analysis and we pick a market or two,
Okay.
and then we just send out offers. So, we'll go to either the county website or we'll use a list service to pull down the list of names who are the vacant property owners, and they have their addresses because they're sending them tax bills. And
Oh,
so
gotcha. Okay.
will just mass mail. There are
Gotcha.
other services that will do skip tracing or things where you can get people's phone numbers. I get them, like I get ever so often, I'll get a text message, "Hey, I see you own property in Colorado. Are you open to sell it?"
Yeah,
And so
we get
there
calls
are,
every day.
Eh,
I said,
Are,
I look at the zip area code. I'm like, I don't need that one.
yeah, exactly.
are you actually using stuff like PropStream to build your list, or have you found them not as accurate in rural areas?
Yeah, we used to use PropStream. We use a service now called Zamplo, and it's a land specific company that does the same thing as PropStream. The problem is they all rely on the county information to pull their data. And so the first step is how quick do the counties update their records? And we found in a lot of these rural markets, especially, they're really slow to process. Like they might file a deed and you get that, but their website services they don't get updated very quickly. Many times they're hosting on a third party their websites, and so it even takes another degree to get it done. And then the list services themselves, they have their own cadence with which they go out and refresh their data. And so, yeah, down that chain, you can certainly get outdated information. And there's a percentage of that we find, but it's just a cost of doing business.
Hmm.
Well, what about your infrastructure? Who takes phone calls for you?
We do most everything ourselves.
Really?
Yeah, we use VAs now and again, but it's just Ligia and I. And so we have a pretty steady cadence, and so
Yeah.
it's not like a really burdensome type thing.
Yeah.
We have a voicemail box. We don't really take phone calls, and so everything goes to a voicemail. Um, and so we get our fair share of hate messages, right? People are mad that we've made them a ridiculously low offer, and they want to vent and say, "How dare you
Oh,
send me this?"
oh, do you actually include offers in your letter?
We do, yeah, yeah.
Okay, got it.
We've tried blind offers as well. We tried to
Uh-huh.
just
It's just
reach
more
out.
work on the front end, right? People come in with an expectation that you're going to give them $100,000, and then you say, "Hey, we're going to offer you 10," and they go, "What? I don't, whatever."
So
So
it's not you're not trying to get leads. It's like, hey, here's who we are. Here, we would like to buy your land. Here's our
yeah,
offer.
yeah. Our preference is just to deal with qualified
Yeah.
buyers, like they know at least within reason that
Uh-huh.
this is what we're talking about. They might want to negotiate a little bit, but yeah, we just deal with motivated sellers.
Yeah, then you can set up something like an open phone bot.
Yeah, exactly. People
Yeah.
come in, they call, we get a transcript, we get an email alert or a text or something, and we just get back to them.
Um, awesome. If you haven't used it, it's great. Even you can even give it to your VAs overseas. It works really well. And you can listen, you can text to it. It's like $10 a month, $15 a month or something like that.
Which
Mhm.
one is that, Simon?
You
Open
said
open phone.
open phone.
Open phone.
It's the cheapest virtual phone you can get, and it's great. And you can have it set to record all calls. So if you have your VA talk to them, then it'll record all their calls.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good feature. Yeah, we have a Google Voice number and it's
It,
just free, but we
yeah.
get people leave voicemails, we get transcripts of the voicemails, emails as texts and all that kind of stuff, and then we can text across it and different things. So, but yeah, that's a good feature to be able to
Yeah, and
audit.
then it seemed to work really well with VAs overseas anywhere, and I had ran into issues with Google Voice, Google Phones before,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
sometimes
some are tricky about their the IP addresses and who's using the stuff there for sure.
exactly. And what are you using for CRM?
We've tried a few different things. We kind of have our own. We have
Yeah,
just developed our own in-house system over time. We use like a Podio type
yeah.
layer. We've dabbled with a few others, but yeah, we just kind of stay with that because it's been customized along the way and it's integrated with a lot of our processes in terms of our mailing platforms and different things.
Mhm.
How about you? Are you using a CRM, Simon?
I'm using, the modified version of Go High Level.
Of Go High Level, you said?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate dealing with it, so I have somebody like set it for me, and then I say, okay, that's what it is, and I don't even look into it anyway. I have my guys look at it, and so
Yeah.
I don't really care.
Nice.
And I'm from a former tech guy, just like yourself. Older I get, less I want to deal with it.
Yes. Yeah.
Remember the days of back when you say, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?" I'm hooking up my stereo. A big stack, and I used to love it, and now I don't even like to hook up TVs.
Yeah, no, it's a pain. Yeah, it's a pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or your parents ask you or somebody like, hey, can you change this up? Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny. Well, we don't have too much time left, so
Sure.
I'm gonna see if Zeph or Nigel,
Yeah.
anyone, David, go ahead.
First
Zeph.
of all, thank you guys. It was really, I mean, I learned a lot.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So I was always thinking about land, but never, my wife and I, we talk about it and she's like, nah, it's not, we're not gonna build a house on it. But you kind of give me a different perspective. So it's nice. I really appreciate it.
Good. Thank you.
I have I'm from California. So two questions. One, have you done any deals here in California? How hard is that? Is that something that's problematic? And second question is can you speak a little bit more about the contract for deed?
Sure.
What is that? Like, how does that work? Because I have I have single family homes that I own, so I kind of know how that works, but land wise, I have no idea how just pure land.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. First off, in the California, we have not personally done any deals in California, but we have clients that do deals, and I know other land flippers that work a lot in California. There are some markets that are approachable. They're not, they're not crazy expensive, and so it is doable. I'm not sure about the like the regulations in terms of the counties or um, any type of owner financing nuance that there might be. So that's worth checking out. But you don't have to shop in your backyard. I mean, that's the great thing about land is you can really do it anywhere. You don't have to, like I said, you don't have to be on the property. There's a lot of different ways to work it. So, but there are some great counties in California, and I know some successful land flippers that work a lot in California. Um, yeah, then in terms of the contract for deed, so we have kind of a package of three documents. One is the promissory note. So somebody says, I'm going to pay you $500 a month for 5 years. Then there's just a contract, which is the terms essentially. Don't use the land, we don't allow people to build while they're paying on a property. If they're late, we talk about those kind of things. Do's and don'ts. You can't do these things. And then there's the land contract itself, which talks about the terms of our agreement. And one of them is exactly that. Like we maintain the title until it's fully paid off. And yeah, I mean, we have our
But
lawyers.
you maintain the title, so do you do a title transfer?
We maintain ownership until the land is fully paid off, and then I think it says we have 30 days to transfer the title or something.
Transfer the deed. Okay, so
Usually it's within a day or two we transfer. Yeah, we keep ownership just for that reason, for simplicity's sake. But as we were talking about earlier on the call, there are some markets where they don't allow it, or they want a certain there's certain restrictions in terms of things like that.
Is that-
So you purchase the land, you
Hi,
transfer.
Hannah here. Please give me a call. Thank you.
Is Lydia Johanna?
All right, let's try getting her on mute.
So
Can
just to
Yes,
make sure I
I'm
understand.
Hannah David. Yeah, Lydia Joanna are my middle names. I kind
All right. Thank you. So just so I make sure I understand. So you purchase the property, you transfer the deed on your name, and then
Yep.
when you want to sell it, you're basically doing this contract for deed saying, okay, we still own the land, and over time, you transfer the deed once it's all paid off, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. So if it's a cash deal, then obviously it's a simple transaction. We go through title most of the time. There's
Got
an
it.
escrow and
There's an
title gets
escrow.
transferred.
Yeah.
But in these cases where we own or finance, yeah, we have these documents, land contract, as Simon said, the promissory note, and the terms and conditions.
Got it.
And it just states all the legalese in there,
Yeah.
of which that is the core essence of the document, is that we maintain ownership until you fully paid it off, and then we sign it over.
It's like exactly like buying a car.
The leasing agreement.
Yeah, the bank holds the note.
Yeah,
and-
I get it.
or the-
Yeah, it's a deed in escrow, right?
But I think in those situations, it might be like a co-ownership or something like
But
that.
yeah, but it's in a contract for deed is basically like a deed in escrow. You go ahead and execute the deed, but they don't get it, right? And it remains in there. So technically, in future, if they wanted to sell it to somebody, then it becomes a double close, but it doesn't require the original seller to be present because deed has been executed already. So that's the little nuances, but they don't get you can technically put in there where they get the deed after so many payments, but why would you, right? So they don't get the deed until you're complete with that payment. And I can't remember the actual nuance in the state of Texas, but Texas, you got to be careful. It's a little different than everywhere else.
Yeah, and I would imagine California might have its own
Yes.
interpretation of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have another question from Lydia. Lydia, do you want to come off mute and ask your question? Your hand is raised.
Might be a mistake.
Joanne. Okay.
Good stuff. Guys, a fun crew.
Yes, I
Yeah,
was on call today. Pace Morby was teaching a lesson, and he said he's flipping dirt in. I don't think he said California. He said Seattle, and he said both deals he's making 1.7 million. He got the land for a cheap price. He built 7 to 8 units, and he's making 1.7 million. I don't know if it is per unit or per the whole set of houses. Yeah. So he said sometimes that's a way to make some quick money if you have the money to hold the property and everything. Yeah. So
And
but did he build on it, you're saying? He built
yes,
on
he
it?
built on 2 lands, he said. I don't know if they
Okay.
are right next to each other. And he said in 2025, he made 1.7 million for each. I don't know if it was like one set of properties he made 1.7. Yeah.
But it's not simply flipping dirt. I'm willing to bet he entitled it. And if it's in Seattle, if you can find any decent dirt in King County, it's like gold. So
yeah, I think she said he built on it, so he did some development there.
So
yeah,
that's a little bit different. Yeah.
that's it's a lot of time and resources. It's not cheap to get there either. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yes. Yep.
Well, thank
But
you for bringing
But
that.
it is a great way to add value, doing the entitlement process, but there's just more risk in it.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go see Nigel. Hi, do you have any questions? You there?
Yes, I once met a guy who does this in Massachusetts, and he told me one land that he flipped, he found some rare material. So he ended up selling it. It was not like rare, it was just like some kind of rare, that's all. So then he ended up selling it, and he said he made close to 1 million or 1.5 million just selling that rock, selling those rocks because they were unique rocks. Were you guys lucky to find anything like that?
We haven't been. We haven't looked, honestly, so maybe we've passed it on to somebody else.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that John Burley, who was here previously, he had acquired some land that had some mineral rights on it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one thing that he looks for when he's
Yeah.
doing his land
It's
grabs.
tough. I mean, there's a lot of people out there buying up mineral rights, so it's rare to get one where it's free and clear. I mean, a lot of
Yeah,
A lot of the counties even are put a claim of some kind on it, 50% or something. Um,
And he said that was one of the properties that the owner came back and actually paid off, in the window where they have to pay
oh, got it back.
foreclosure. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right. So David has a question. David, thank you.
Yeah, hey guys. Yeah, I have a question in reference to what is your top three types of land and locations you like to buy? I don't know. You may have gone through this, and I do apologize if you have. And also, do you buy commercial dirt?
Yeah, we typically don't even look at commercial. Just it's a harder, less available type of asset class, and so it's a little more. It's more of a targeted play. I know some. I have some contacts who do it in like Kansas City and things like that. So we don't. We that's one of our first filters is just looking at residential and rural type properties. In terms of markets, that's kind of a hard one. I mean, for us personally, like I said, we did a lot of business in Costilla County, which is in south central. It's borderline, borders with New Mexico. There was just a ton of vacant land there. Mountainous, the Sangre de Cristo mountain range comes through there. And so that was our early days. We built our business there. We haven't really shopped there in years because it's competitive, like I mentioned. But we do some counties here in Colorado. We live in Teller County. It's just a little bit west of Colorado Springs, and so there's land here. It's pretty pricey. The next county over, Park County, is got just a ton of land. 5 acres, 10 acres, up to there's some larger tracts, but just a bunch of those types of parcels. And so we do a lot of volume in that county. Fremont in Colorado is another beautiful county. It's a little rugged, so some of the properties there we have to check. But those are our Colorado markets. We do business in Arizona. There's some counties with beautiful 40-acre tracts. Where are we? Apache, Navajo are some great counties. That's just what we're drawn to. There's markets like there's many markets in Florida where there's smaller infill lots, if that's your thing. There's a huge buying pool for those kind of. I mean, people are moving to Florida like crazy. It can be a little harder to get because people they don't let go of them so easily. You have to do a little more work to get them, but excuse me. The Northwest is a great market. There's some really good Oregon and Washington counties. Not so much in the west, but on the eastern side where the plains kind of open up a little bit. There's growing markets there, and things. So that's probably be my go-tos, I would say.
So would you
Thank you.
say the top demand for land would be infill? Or would you say it's just outside of the counties or whatever it is? So I just wanted to understand that with the land.
From a demand perspective, probably infill lots have a higher demand just because, you have both individuals and builders, developers looking at things like that. But, there are pockets of rural acreage where there's a lot of stuff. But yeah, I mean, infill probably has I would say the biggest, if I were just thinking about raw demand, just by the nature of it, obviously.
All right. And maybe for those that are newer, can you define infill land?
Well, like a subdivision that gets platted out, and then you have
Okay.
these, and maybe it's already got some homes in it, and so you have lots in between that are still vacant. That would
Yeah.
kind of be technically an infill.
And usually they have the utilities at the lot. Usually there's
Oh yeah, that's true
electricity,
too. Yeah, a lot of our rural properties, there's maybe dirt
Nothing.
roads, some telephone poles, or utility poles here and there, but they may not have.
You check if it has utilities when
We do sometimes. It's usually not a showstopper. I mean, either it does or it doesn't. And there's buyers for both. Some people want it,
So
some
you
people don't care about it.
just keep it just brain dead simple. Buy cheap, sell high, and just keep
Yeah.
it simple.
I mean, honestly, we have a client who just bought some properties in Arizona, I guess, and yeah, it has utilities on it, and it's just he got it dirt cheap,
And
but it's worth 10x what he bought it for because it has power right at the property. One of the properties even have a slab on it, but
it's possibilities there. I've seen people do some crazy, stuff that you can make. If you wanted to make ton of money, then you buy, about 45 minutes out from a major metro. That's nice, especially in areas like Texas.
Sure.
Then pretty land matters. It needs to be pretty, the pasture.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then you can get the deal. And, the guys that I've seen the most X on the deals, they'll buy on owner financing. And then they would build in the release clauses, so they're allowed to subdivide the land, and then the owner will release the lien on those subdivided parcels. And then, because they're doing that work after they're done, after they sell, let's say you got one big parcel, they chopped it up into 10, and after they sell 3 or 4, then it's paid off. Then they're riding on the remainder of it. But this is not a short-term play, because you go in places like Texas, you would have put a horse fence around the property. It's a cost, but it's not prohibitive, but makes it beautiful, right? And then you subdivide it into tracts and sell it to city slickers or whatnot. They want, their 3 acres or 5 acre parcels and pretty, the the Texas dirt for them to build their houses on. You sell their field of dreams, and you based on what you put in originally, you 20, 30, 40 extra money and you're out. But that process takes a long time. So it has to be your cup of tea for you to do it. I really like Mike and Ligia's model. It's brain that simple. Buy cheap, sell high. Pretty simple.
Yes, we
Yeah.
know a lot of people that do subdivisions, and they subdivide their land. And yes, it takes a long time. It takes money. It's very active. It's great, but we just wanted to keep it simple.
It keeps things turning more quickly, and then we just redeploy the capital in that way. But yeah, we had a client earlier this year, in fact, who is a surveyor in Texas, and that was what he wanted to do. He wants to buy 10, 20 acre tracts and subdivide them. And he's a surveyor, so he's able to do his thing and get things platted out.
Well, we need to be respectful of your time. I know Nigel has one question or comment before we go.
Well, I was going to ask Mike, do they take on developers as far as with a buy box, or they just like to stay within their lane?
In which part of the process do we take on
Well,
developers?
as far as, well, like you said earlier, if I give you a specific line that I'm looking for, are you willing to work with somebody like that to find a specific land or infills?
It's a possibility. We haven't done it, but yeah, I mean, it's
it don't sound like you guys do a lot of metro. It sounds like you do mostly rural.
We're mostly
type of
rural,
stuff.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
but the model works. We could certainly entertain the concept.
All right.
Happy to talk more.
Oh, yes, please. I'd like to look into that with you, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Sure.
great. So
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I was just going to ask them to put their contact information in the chat, but go ahead and keep talking while they do that.
I was going to send him down to Florida to see if he can find something down there for us.
Yes, that's what I thought you were going to say. Yeah, you can hit me there, and we can set up a time, discuss, and kind of see what you're thinking about.
Will do. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Nigel.
Well, this was awesome.